Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Paul Jay. We're continuing our series, 23 Things They Don't Want You to Know About Capitalism. Joining us again, Ha-Joon Chang. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, we're up to number 19. Despite the fall of communism, we are, in fact, living in planned economies. So explain that.
Yes.
This is supposed to be free market.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, that's what people think. But, just think about it. When Karl Marx was writing about central planning, there was actually no centrally planned economy. Where did he get the idea? He got it from corporations. Yeah? So corporations might look free, kind of when it interacts with other corporations, but internally, it's a very hierarchical organization.
And Walmart would have blown Marx away. I mean,
oh, absolutely,
yeah.
The
planning
internal on the global scale. Yeah. So, I mean,
I've often thought if you want to have a planned economy in the United States, the American government should just buy all the shares of Walmart. You'd have the seeds of a planned economy.
No, exactly. No, actually, that's exactly what Marx thought was going to happen. Yeah? I mean, companies become bigger and bigger. They plan more and more of the economy, and in the end, it becomes more rational to run it as a whole.
And he never imagined digitization. When you add digitization to the planning process and computerization, places like Walmart, they're tremendous in the amount of planning.
Yeah, but I mean, as the failure of Soviet Union shows, it wasn't really about lack of information and so on. It was a much more complex problem. I mean, when you have when you're poor and trying to feed people, then there are relatively few things to plan. But when you reach a higher stage of material development, people want diversity, people want different things and so on. And therefore, how do you plan an economy with millions of corporations and billions of products? I mean, there's a reason why central planning didn't work. But however, this doesn't mean that there's no planning. I mean, governments still plan many things. I mean, a lot of industrial development in the United States is actually planned by the government in the sense that it finances a huge amount of money used in corporate research and development, or it provides it indirectly through federal defense research and health research and so on. All these companies are planning things more and more. I mean, not just within national border anymore. I mean, they are
you get
transnational, and there are a lot of planning elements. Now, therefore, I argue that the question is not whether to plan or not, because we are already planning. Yeah? The question is what to plan, exactly at what level.
And for who?
Exactly, yeah. The Soviet experience has shown that the entirely centralized, kind of uniform planning doesn't work. Yeah? On the other hand, it's not as if there is any real-world economy that is not planned at all.
And to be fair, in the Soviet model, it did work for a time.
Yeah,
from semi-feudal
exactly when things were simpler
to sending a Sputnik, there was a certain
when things were simpler, it worked very well.
And then it got stuck.
Yeah, they had one or two kind of very clearly defined objective like Sputnik or winning the Second World War. It worked brilliantly. I mean, after all, during the Second World War, the U.S. economy and the British economy were also centrally planned, rationing and everything. Yeah? So it's not, that planning never works, because, if that was the case, all these giant corporations would have collapsed. Yeah? But, there are areas and there are tasks for which planning works better.
The other thing with the Soviet model is that the idea that everything had to be owned by one central state in order to plan it gave rise to dictatorship. But that doesn't mean there isn't ways to plan with a diversity of ownership with some kind of public interest.
Yeah, there was some experiment along that line in Yugoslavia with self-management and so on, but it had its own problem, because the one main justification for planning was to coordinate the activities across the different enterprises, trying to distill some kind of unified national interest out of diverse demands. So if you decentralize too much, this becomes dysfunctional. So, I mean, it's not easy, but yes, I mean, there was definitely that problem. I mean, this centralization naturally led
So
to...
where do you go from this then? If there is a lot of planning in the economy and people don't want to admit it, then what?
No, I mean, you know, there are certain things that we really need central planning for.
Like we're talking about a new green economy.
Growth, exactly.
Where's it coming
from?
from?
Without a concerted, centralized effort, also globally coordinated, it's not going to happen. Yeah? I mean, if you just leave it to the market's incentive says, yes, keep pumping oil out. I mean, destroy Alaska, yeah? Destroy Mexican Gulf. Yeah? Doesn't matter. Yeah? I mean, it's not going to happen if you left it to the market. So this is exactly the kind of thing that you need central planning for.
And you're constantly hearing in the financial pages, you know, praising China, how China's doing this, China's doing that.
Yeah, I mean, today, talk about China putting huge money and government direction behind developing the solar cell industry. You know.
That's planning.
Yeah, they came from nowhere to become the biggest solar cell producer in the world. I mean, it's still a bit lower quality than in other countries, but they are coming up very, very fast. And when the tasks are very clearly defined and your objective is clear, planning is much better than market.
Okay, moving on. Number 20. Equality of opportunity may not be fair. What's that mean?
Well, you know, a lot of people argue that we don't want equality of outcome because that's counterproductive. Only thing that we have to guarantee is equality of opportunity. So if you have a 100-meter race, they all have to start from the same starting point. If one has a head start and another that runs 20 meters from 20 meters behind the starting line is unfair. So that's what they mean by equality of opportunity. So once you make it sure that everyone runs from the same starting line, then we have to accept the result. Now, what these people don't tell you, however, is that in the race, some of the kids might actually have only one leg, or some of them are so badly malnourished that they hardly can run. But it is not because these kids are inherently incapable. It's because that they were not properly catered for. If you have a disabled kid, then you have to have a program to fit an artificial leg to this kid so that he can actually run.
So in terms of public policy, what are the implications of that?
In terms of public policy, this basically means equalizing the parental income to an extent. I mean, not completely. I mean,
especially in the U.S. now, where you're getting what's essentially a two-tier education system, where private schools are giving kids excellent educations, and public school education in many areas is so defunded.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, in the U.S., the problem is particularly serious because you fund education with local taxes. So, I mean, the quality of education is basically determined by the quality of the wealth of your neighborhood, which reproduces this social inequality. I mean, in European countries, education fundings are much more centralized, so even deprived areas get basically similar amount of funding. Now, funding good schools, good public schools is one solution. Another is that you need to give some stability and minimum degree of income to all parents because, I mean, schools can only do so much. I mean, if the parents are constantly worried about money and because of that fighting with each other all the time, and I mean, the kids cannot have a secure environment to study. And if you, at the end of that kind of home environment, this kid doesn't do well, it's not necessarily because the kid is less capable. So you have to make it sure that these minimum condition for competition is met.
Okay, number 21. Big government makes people more open to change. How's that? We're told big government destroys innovation.
Exactly, yeah. In the United States especially, people believe that big government make people lazy because they give free handouts to these people who don't want to work. But this is one of the biggest kind of misconceptions that we have. This notion that you need to make people really afraid for them to do things, work hard, think creatively. No, I mean, this actually is counterproductive. I mean,
Unless your objective is a low-wage, disciplined labor force.
Exactly. I mean, but that's probably not a recipe that countries like the United States should pursue. Huh?
Well, no, they don't pursue it with the public. Publicly, they don't say these things.
That's right. Yeah, if you have, I don't know, $300 per capita income like Ethiopia, maybe even low-wage, well-disciplined workforce is something that you can contemplate, but in an economy with $45,000 per capita income, with one of the highest skill levels in the world, I mean, aiming for this low-wage economy is ludicrous. But the point that I'm trying to make is that by actually giving people some minimum degree of security in basic things like healthcare and education and so on, and old age and so on, you actually make people more progressive. You make people more willing to take chances. And this is exactly what goes on in Scandinavia. Countries like Sweden, Finland, Norway, they have a huge welfare state, spending in proportional terms double the money that Americans spend, triple the money in some countries in social spending. But these countries actually are as dynamic, actually even more dynamic than the United States, because their workers are willing to take the chances with their career. I mean, they do not. I mean, well, no one likes that.
If nothing else, they sleep better. Which actually is a big factor. Like if you're up all night worried about losing your job in your house,
oh, absolutely,
you're not going to be very creative about
so
things.
These people not only are provided basic healthcare, education, and minimum income support, they also are provided with this retraining schemes, which means that you lose your job. Okay, I mean, no one likes to lose their job, but I mean, even if you lose the job, it's not the end of the world, because you have the minimum living standard. You will get retrained and probably find another job, whereas in America, you don't want to lose your current job ever, because it means no health care, no retraining. You are likely to be thrown on the heap of history, that rubbish heap of history. So this is why actually the American workers are a lot more resistant to foreign competition.
Right. Okay, in the next segment of 23 things they don't tell you about capitalism, we're at 22 coming up. Financial markets need to become less, not more efficient. Please join us for that on the Real News Network.